Hi there, Alison here with another Cab Franc du jour. Today's wine is taking us to Anjou, and we're looking at the Domaine Sauveroy 2023 Anjou Village, Victoire. Back in 1866, the first vines were planted at what is now Domaine Sauveroy in the commune of St-Lambert-du-Lattay in the heart of the Layon River Valley. The modern story of the estate, which begins in 1947, is unique in Anjou in that it is rooted in a passion for Cabernet Franc. In a region that is best known for its noble sweet wines of Chenin Blanc, Francis Cailleau believed it was possible to make exceptional Cabernet Franc from the vineyards here, and he began making Anjou Rouge from the Domaine's Cabernet Franc vines back in the 1950s. This commitment to and passion for the variety was further reinforced when Francis took on the role of president of the syndicate of Anjou Rouge producers from 1978 to 1981. This love of Cabernet Franc was passed down to the second and third generations, Francis's son Pascal and grandson Quentin, who joined the domaine in 2018. The estate today is comprised of 26 hectares of vines. 11 hectares are planted with Cabernet Franc. And from this, they are making not one cuvée, which is typical of most domaines in the western part of Anjou, but 4 expressions of Cabernet Franc, each seeking to highlight the complexity of the terroirs and soils across the domaine's parcels. It is worth noting as well that the domaine is farming their vineyards certified organic with a strong focus on soil health, even leaving their vineyard parcels fallow for 3 to 7 years before replanting in order to rejuvenate the soils. And in 2022, they began to employ some agroforestry practices, planting 1,000 trees across the domaine in order to enhance the biodiversity of their vineyards. Now, before I get into where exactly we are in Anjou, I want to highlight that this is an Anjou village. So how does Anjou village differ from Anjou Rouge? Well, the Anjou AOP actually covers red, white, and sparkling wines, and there are 88 communes for production. And for red wines, the 2 principal varieties are Cabernet Franc and Cabernet Sauvignon, but there are accessory varieties permitted in the blend as well, up to 20% Gros and 10% Pinot de Nice. Now, the yields for Anjou Rouge are 60 hectoliters per hectare. That's the maximum. Now, for Anjou Village, this is a red wine-only appellation, and it's exclusively for Cabernet Franc and or Cabernet Sauvignon wines. The yields are a little bit lower at 55 hectoliters per hectare, and the delineated area is much smaller, 26 communes of production, and the majority of these are dotted along the Layon River following the Côte de Layon production area. So today's wine is taking us to the commune of St-Lambert-du-Lattay, and this commune represents really the heart and soul of the Côte de Layon production area, with the viticultural history dating back to the Middle Ages, when the area was first planted to vines by the nuns of the Ronceret Abbey when they established one of their priories here in the village. Now, this village of St-Lambert-du-Lattay, we are in Western Anjou here, and we're about 20 kilometers south of Angers and about 12 kilometers northwest of the commune of Touarse. And this is Anjou Noir country here. And that means that we are in the part of Anjou where the old rocks of the Massif Armoricain take over from the limestone-based soils of the Paris Basin that we find to the east. Now, what is important to note about these Anjou Noir soils, and that is the collective name for these soils, these are a complex array of schists, slates, and sandstones. And just like the limestone soils that we find further east, there is a lot of diversity to the origins and compositions of these Anjou Noir soils, but there are some generalizations that we can make. So on the left bank of the Layon River, this is where we find the Breuvarian schists. And on the right bank of the Layon River, we find the Saint-Georges series of schists, and we also find Carboniferous sandstone. But what is most important about these Anjou Noir soils as it relates to Cabernet Franc in particular is that these are these dense, dry, dark, brittle rocks that have relatively poor water holding capacity. So when it comes to Cabernet Franc, that means site selection is quite critical if we want to produce red wines, because if Cabernet Franc suffers from hydric stress, that can then block its maturity. So we're ideally looking for sites that will have deeper soils, ideally with a little bit more clay content to help with that moisture retention capacity to be able to provide balanced conditions to have great maturity for red wines. Now, drilling down to today's wine, this is coming from 1.85 hectares of vines, younger vines of the Domaine, planted across three different lieux-dits. We have Les Mascas, Anjou Rouge, and La Pointe Longue. And these three lieux-dits are, for the most part, all around the Domaine Sauveroy in the southern part of St-Lambert-du-Lattay, and the parcels have what is more or less a south-facing exposure. Now, in terms of soils, what we're dealing with across these parcels are deeper soils all around in general. We have a silty clay topsoil that has a high percentage of quartz and gravels in it. And then that is followed by a clayier subsoil. And then we get to the mother rock, the Briavarian schist. And what we're dealing with here is complex alteration of purple, green, ochre, and black schists. These are micaceous, talc-rich sandstone schists. And Quentin mentioned to me that sort of the unifying nature of these parcels is not only the younger vines, but all of these parcels have a bit more precocity, so they're a bit earlier. This allows for better balance of maturity, and also he noted that because of the clay nature of the soils, that adds a little bit more flesh and volume to the finished wine. Now, in terms of the winemaking for this wine, the fruit is hand harvested and it is all destemmed, and the fermentation is in stainless steel with indigenous yeast, and the fermentation temperature ranges from around 25 to 28 degrees Celsius. During the fermentation, the focus of the maceration is infusion, and they will, if need be, do the odd remontage 2 or 3 times over the total time that the wine is on its skins in order to aid extraction. And the total time on skins is around 18 days. Now, this is a combination of free-run wine and press wine. They will separate the free-run wine and press wine and add back in the right amount of press wine in order to get the expression from the vintage for this particular cuvée. And then that blend is then aged in amphora. And the choice for amphora here are 160 and 750 liter amphora. And the choice for this vessel is twofold. The clay allows for a bit of micro-oxygenation that helps to soften and polymerize the tannins, but because it's a neutral vessel, that helps to preserve the purity of the fruit. And the aging in amphora is for a total of 12 months. Now, I am thrilled to finally be presenting this wine to all of you in a little bit more of a geekier manner. I first tasted this wine back in May when I presented it at a masterclass that I gave for Loire Cabernet Franc for wines of the Loire Valley. And then I had a chance to visit Quentin at the Domaine back in July. So I have a whole host more information in my head and better understanding of their philosophy with respect to Cabernet Franc. And so I'm finally thrilled to be able to present this Domaine and this cuvée to all of you today. So let's dive in. So the nose is really lovely. It has beautiful purity of fruit, clean, it's fresh, it's fragrant as well. And there is a nice little lift to this wine on the nose. And the profile is really, really lovely, super classic. I would say it leans in a sweet tart fruit fashion. It has a little bit of a foresty undertone to it. But it's really, really inviting. It has a mix of black currant. There is a touch of raspberry here. There's a little bit of morello cherry as well. And I would say that the fruit and the herbal undertones in this wine are on equal footing here. 2023 was one of my favorite vintages in recent memory. Good maturity, but nice fresh acidity as well, and not quite as ripe as, say, 2022. So this is showing some really nice fresh fruit profiles, but the herbals are coming through in a really nice way as well. And the profile of the herbals is really foresty. Like I said, there is this foresty vibe about this wine, like cedar leaves, spruce tips. There's a little bit of a sous-bois thing going on here. There's even a little bit of almost like a wet autumn leaf kind of note as well. There's also a spiciness to the nose. I often get more Cabernet Franc spice on the palate, but this has a spicy nose as well. Sichuan peppercorns. There's a little bit of cinnamon stick here as well. But yeah, it smells great. There's lots of layers to the nose, which is really impressive. This is not the Domaine's entry-level cuvée. It's kind of the next Cabernet Franc in the lineup, but it does have a lot of complexity to it. And this retails, I believe, if I recall correctly, for around 11 euros from the Domaine, which is super impressive for a wine of this quality. The fruits come through pretty much bang on as they did on the palate. Perhaps it's even a little bit more fruit forward on the palate, I would say. Those foresty undertones maybe take a little bit of a back seat here. And I would say that maybe that black currant note is punching through a little bit more as well. So good. The spice comes through really nicely. There's some added layers here of I'm getting a bit of nettle. There's a little bit of mint. There's a little bit of a bit of sage here as well. Even a touch of juniper, which I really like. The acidity is juicy, and what is interesting about the acidity is it hits a little bit differently. It's a little softer. It's a little bit more subtle than, say, the acidity we get in Cabernet Franc from the limestone soils, which tends to hit like at a higher tone, really kind of high-pitched level. This has a little bit more subtlety to it, and it kind of comes in a sneaky fashion right at the finish. It kind of starts to make your mouth water towards the back end of the palate, which is really nice. The tannins are lovely, beautifully managed, and I would say that they have a nice fine, crisp linen or cotton-like texture. And I use that word crisp because I think that really defines the nature of tannins when we're thinking of Cabernet Franc from these schistous soils. There is a certain, I don't want to say rigidity in a pejorative sense, but there is a certain rigidity to the tannins. They aren't as pliable as the tannins coming from Tuffeau. And I do think that there is a certain crispness to the tannins in this wine. Really lovely though. Nice ripeness, very fine texture, beautiful uniformity to the tannins as well. And there is a lovely firm kind of chalkiness to the finish on the tannins as well. All in all, the wine is medium bodied. It has a lovely juicy profile, is super approachable, but there's also something about it that I find really reserved. There's something kind of almost demure about this wine. There's something a little bit more sultry about this wine as well. And I just think that that is very typical of my favorite expressions of Anjou Rouge and Anjou Village from this particular part of the Loire. Yeah, superb. As I said, very companionable, very approachable. That juiciness of fruit, the way the fruit is working nicely with the tannins. There's some nice plushness and I would say kind of a velvety caress on the tongue, which is really, really lovely. But it's just delicious. It's a delicious wine, and I think it really speaks to this terroir. And that was something that I thought really spoke to me back in May when I tasted this for the first time, is that it immediately said, yes, this is what I think of when I think of Anjou Rouge. And I love that. I love that they're really going for that typicity and to really highlight the nature of their soils and what it can bring when managed beautifully with Cabernet Franc. And this is a domaine that may be new to many of you out there. It was certainly new to me when I was introduced to it back in May, but this is definitely one to put on your radar. I think the whole range of wines is superb, particularly their reds. When I was with Quentin at the Domaine in July, we tasted through the full range, and they're really impressive. They're beautiful wines, and I think they really highlight the beauty of this particular part of Western Anjou and of the commune of St-Lambert-du-Lattay. If you have had the wines from Domaine Sauveroy, I would love to know what you thought of them in the comments below. Or perhaps if you have another favorite Anjou village, I would love to know what that is in the comments below. And of course, as always, I'll be back again soon. with another wine. Cheers.